right here so I can highlight it. Thinking about crew, the updated version, because now we've got pins. Yeah. Okay. So now that we've got pins, we have to think about crew slightly differently. So let's go ahead and set up our Reaper crew. What do we want our Reaper crew to do? A crap ton of damage. A crap ton of damage. So, that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on damage first, survivability second. Right? I don't really care how fast I'm going. You know, we want to kill things and, you know, not die. So first things first, captain. We have to have the captain. Who gives us the most damage? Who gives us the most damage? Evan and Captain Jonesy have 4%. Jingles has 4%. So, who's got the best damage reduction out of those three? It looks like Evan has it. 7.5% damage reduction. So we're going to go ahead and take him. Evan, get on here. Yeah, we lose out because... Oh, wait, no! Oh, do we take Jingles because he's legendary? Do we take Jingles because he's legendary? And see, here's where it gets interesting. Because look at the spread we've got. We've got an attack slot and 2 defense slots, 2 attack slots and a utility slot, or even though it's showing Jingles has 1 of each, if I throw him in here, it actually shows he's got legendary slots, so I can put whatever I want in there. No multiple instances of the same thing, but I can put whatever. So, we've got a little bit of a decision to make here. Do we sacrifice a little bit of damage reduction here to put it on our utility slots? Or do we go for max damage reduction, period, the end? So where's our damage reduction? So we could potentially get back some damage reduction from here. And it would only be 2.5% difference between the two of these guys. And because of that, we're actually going to go with Jingles. We're actually going to go with Jingles. Because it's going to be really easy for me, because we're going to have these extra defensive slots right here, just lying around. So it's going to be really easy to recover that damage reduction. Blah, blah, blah. Alright, so, next. Of course, we're going to want a tactical. We've got Cornelius and Dice, both have the exact same stats. I want the most damage we can get out, and the fire rate is what's going to give us that. Now, are we going to go for the utility slot, or are we going to go for the defense slot? Well, we're probably going to have a couple of defense slots from other folks, but one thing I want to point out in the utility slot, specifically for the Reaper, and this is where you have to really be thinking about what your ship is capable of, what abilities it has, all that good stuff. We've got utility duration right here. So let's see, what does that do? Utility duration. Increase the time shields and point defense can be active. Shield. Shroud. I can have a longer shroud. Dice stays. That's an easy decision. That is a very easy decision. Alright, so we've got 2 of them figured out. What else do we need? Do we really need a CAG? No. I mean, we've got fighters, but they're not a mainstay of what you're doing. Do we need comms? It gives us extra energy regen and sensor range. The extra sensor range is nice, but it's probably not going to be make or break. The regen is not going to be such a big deal because the Reaper is not an energy-hungry ship. The only thing you're really using your energy for is point defense. So you could even argue that with the extra energy regen, it could come back and bite you in the ass if you're fighting something like a Raven or an Aegis, because they're wanting to take your energy out, and the more energy you're generating, the more they can take from you. If you're constantly sitting at 0 energy and they're peppering, you with their energy drain, they're going to be keeping you at 0 energy, but they're not going to be gaining any energy either, right? That's why if any of you have ever been playing a Raven and you've got a healer on 0 energy, but you can't seem to get enough to do the death beam on him, that's why. Because you're keeping him at 0, he can't heal anybody, but you're also not taking a whole lot of energy from him, so therefore you can't get any to do your beam. Alright, so we don't really need comms. Do we need an engineer? It's going to give us extra speed and armor strength. I would say yes. So, with the way the stats are laid out, we could get a lot of forward thrust or a lot of armor strength. I would say that we definitely want to get somebody with an attack slot because we want to do all the damages. And then it's, do we want armor strength or do we want speed? That's kind of an easy decision. We want the armor strength. However, we still have to look at the other slots. With Gauss, he's going to give us the most armor strength, but he's also going to give us 2 defense slots. Which, defense slots are nice, don't get me wrong, but we're going to lose out on that utility duration. We're going to lose out on the duration for our Shroud. So, instead of Gauss, we can look at going Mia, because she's got an attack slot, she's got the utility slot. That gives us stuff that we want. So let's get Mia in here. Alright, do we need a Jump Corps officer? I know some people swear by having a Jump Corps officer. I personally don't think you need one. At least not for an attack ship. So, do we need a navigations officer? Maneuvering and turn rate. So, let's see. Maneuvering. Where is it? Maneuvering. Ship's vertical and strafing movement. So, up and down and side to side. Good stuff to have. And then turn rate is, well, however fast you turn. So, with the Reaper specifically, I recommend having as much turn rate as you can get your hands on. So, currently, if we want the most turn rate, we're going to have to go with Charon here. But, again, look at the slots. He doesn't have any attack slots. So we're going to be losing out on that deeps. So, the next step down would be IX-209 or Blaine. Then we look at the slots again. Attack, defense, defense. Okay, that's nice. Attack, utility. That's going to give us that attack slot. That's going to give us that extended duration on our Shroud. Let's get IX in here. Come here, buddy. We got Robro on the team. Alright, so we've got one slot left that we haven't messed with. Our repair slot, currently occupied by Mira. Do we need a repair officer? Nice to have, because of the minus 25% potential broken armor damage reduction. That's pretty good. But our last thing is a utility officer, which will give us, of course, reduced cost. Energy efficiency is right here. Energy efficiency, where is it? Reduces the energy cost for energy-based systems. So that's going to make our Shroud cost less, and it's also going to give us a lower cooldown. So we can buff it up with, with our Shroud coming back faster. We can also make it last longer with these utility slots. So, here's the question. Do we want the extra tankiness, or do we want... Or rather, do we want the tankiness to come from here, from our armor, or do we want the tankiness to come from that Shroud? It's kind of a complicated decision, because you have to look at these bonuses provided by your guys right here, because these are really only going to apply directly to your Shroud. Whereas the armor repair rate and the broken armor damage, that's going to apply all the time, right? If you're facing somebody and the armor on your nose is broken, these guys are going to apply. These guys aren't going to do anything. So, just by the fact that these guys will always be active, these guys are going to give you higher effective HP. Just simply because of that. Don't even have to do any math. Don't even have to do any math. Yes, you can potentially block more damage more often, but I think it would be better to have something that is always active, that is always going to be giving you a bonus. So I would say go with the repair officer. Then on top of that, we look at the slots again. What do we want most? Okay, we want to reduce the damage that we take when our armor's broken. Sweet. Alright, 25%. Hey, look at that. Ridley's also legendary. So yeah, it says attack, defense, utility, but those are actually chromatic slots. So we've got 6 chromatic slots, 1, 2, 3, 4 attack slots, 2 defense slots, and 3 utility slots. That's great. That's fantastic. Okay, so what do we actually want to do with these? So with Jingles and Ridley right here, we could just load them up with attack if we wanted. I don't want to do that though. So one thing I do want to do, utility duration. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 20% utility duration. That is 20% more uptime on your shroud. That's great. That's fantastic. And the rest we can worry about as is. So I'm going to treat it as we've got 2 defense slots. So what could we do for 2 defense slots? Hey, we could reduce our broken armor damage even more. We could reduce station damage. What do I want to do with it? I would say, yeah, let's go ahead and further reduce broken armor damage. So an extra 10% on top of that 25%. So minus 35% broken armor damage. Yeah, you will still be taking extra damage. If I'm understanding this correctly, let's make sure I am. Broken armor damage protection. Take once the armor is broken. If I'm understanding it correctly, it's the amount of extra damage you would normally be taking that's getting reduced. If I'm understanding it correctly. But everything else is attack. So let's get everything. So I'm not too worried about the turret traverse on the Reaper because really what you're supposed to be doing is always having the enemy in front of you. So what we can do is go, okay, I want extra attack damage. So attack damage, attack damage, attack damage, attack damage. Unfortunately, I'm still lacking in attack damage. Oh well. And then do we want extra missile range? Do we want turret traverse? Do we want fire rate? I want fire rate. We're going to take some fire rate on here. And, yeah, I happen to like that. I happen to like that quite a bit. I think that's pretty good. So as you guys can see, picking your crew and setting them up correctly is so much more complicated than it used to be. With this kind of system, I could easily see people justifying 3 or 4 different loadouts for crew for one ship. That is how deep you can go now. That is how much theory crafting you can do. Man, this is gonna get nuts.